Dearest viewer, the time has come for me to recap for you Bridgerton Season 1. Now, this is going to be like a little bit of a dramatic retelling, let's make fun of these characters that we love so much. Let's make fun of me for how much I love Anthony specifically. Bum, 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 bum. That's literally not even how it goes. Okay. Let me get my Lady Whistledown voice ready. Season 1, Episode 1, Diamond of the First Water. It's the start of the social season, which in 1800s Regency London is a big deal. Okay, so all the girls got their pretty dresses on. They're about to be presented to the queen and presented into society, where they will enter the marriage mart in hopes of finding a husband and a potentially an elusive love match. At the Bridgerton house, which is beautifully decorated in CGI wisteria, which I don't blame them, because if you've ever thrown a wedding, you know that a floral budget is just, God bless CGI for flowers. This is a place we're going to come to know and love, so just get prepared. We see a gaggle of siblings waiting outside their sister's room, and we learn that Daphne is inside. She is the eldest of the Bridgerton daughters, and she is getting ready for her presentation. And then we see another sister, a brunette, Eloise, who you will definitely come to know and love, who screams that Daphne must make haste. And Daphne therefore hurries downstairs. She's in her presentation dress. She seems ready to go, but she says to her mother, Violet, where is he? And we're wondering who he is and why she cares if he's going to be late. We shortly discover that he is none other than Anthony Bridgerton, Daphne's eldest brother, the man of the Bridgerton house, and the man currently banging a gal up against a tree. That's my favorite character. Yeah, I love him. I love him. You don't get it out, but you will.
This is your man.
Yeah. Trust me. Anthony manages to keep it in his pants long enough for Daphne's presentation, where she is chosen by the queen to be the diamond of the season. Now, the diamond, very important role, okay? The diamond is the one that impresses the queen the most, that has the most potential for the best match. It's very high honor. Diamond of the season is like fairest of them all type stuff. Really speaks to how prepared Daphne is for this life of marriage. And we learn this is something that she really values. She really wants above all else to be a mother. Okay? File that away. At the presentation, we also meet all three Featherington sisters, including Penelope, the youngest of the Featherington sisters, and Eloise's best friend. And then we see a mysterious figure on a horse ride into town. But as he gets closer, we realize that's not a mysterious figure. That is a dashing figure. Dare I say, that is a charming, rakish figure. And that figure is none other than Simon Bassett, the new Duke of Hastings. Duke, okay? A little brief rundown. We've got our lords and ladies. Then we've got, I think, Viscount. And then I think we've got Duke. So that's high. Okay, Anthony is a Viscount. All the other Bridgertons will be ladies or misters or lords, I guess. I don't know exactly how that works. Sorry, I don't know exactly how that works. The important thing to note here is that Duke is higher up the list, okay? That's what you need to remember. We find out that he's in town to visit Lady Danbury, who's kind of too busy for Simon just pulling up into town because she's throwing the first ball of the season, which is kind of a big deal. And so she's in pure party planning mode. Like, imagine your mom PTO party, end of the school year. Like, that level of laser focus is what Lady Danbury has. Okay, you don't get just anywhere in 1800s Regency London without that kind of laser focus. Cut to an opera house. I know we're changing locations a lot. I just got to get you introduced to all these characters before we start finding ourselves in familiar places. So at the opera house, we see someone recognizable. And where have we seen this woman before? Perhaps outside? Oh, yes. The woman against the tree. This woman is Sienna. She is a opera singer, so a working class woman, not a member of the ton, so not a member of society. She's not getting presented in front of the queen. No chance, no shot for her to be diamond, unfortunately, to Miss Sienna, despite that gorgeous beauty mark. She's a well-kept woman, basically. She's kind of like the Regency equivalent of like a sugar baby, and Anthony is kind of her sometimes lover, all-time financial provider, if you will. The opening of Bridgerton very much exists to kind of set us in this world and understands the varying levels of social class and who our main characters are. The following day, very exciting, the very first ever Lady Whistledown Society paper is delivered. Now, important thing, okay? This is the Gossip Girl element of Bridgerton. People don't talk about it anymore because people just know what Bridgerton is. But when Bridgerton first came out, this was compared to Gossip Girl a lot. So I really do feel like I'm having a Mike's Mike moment now, except I can't pull up all the cute little phones that they all use because, girl, they're all using quills. Like, there was no model. Like, it was just whatever you had on hand. Penelope's mother, Portia Featherington, is really disappointed that the only thing the column really talks about is Daphne and being the diamond of the season and the Bridgertons, how great they are and how lovely they are. And she's just kind of annoyed because she's like, I had 3 daughters presented, and you're not going to talk about any of them. And then her mood kind of gets worse because she finds out that her husband's distant cousin by the name of Marina is going to come to live with them from a farm. And she's just like, oh, I just don't want to take on another girl, because at the time, presenting a woman in society and paying for all these dresses and stuff, like, the expenses are gonna rack up. But when she does arrive, Marina's kind of stunning, right? She's stunning. Okay, she's pretty. And Portia's kind of pissed because not only does she have the responsibility of marrying this other girl off, but this girl could be taking prospects from her daughters. And then we get to our first ball of the season. Okay, Lady Danbury's ball. Daphne's there. She is the apple of everybody's eye. Trust the fact that everybody knows a diamond when they see one, and they want a piece. Okay, they want that bling bling. Okay, every time she catches a gentleman's eye, though, who is there to mess things up for her but her older brother, Anthony? He's like, he's not good enough for you. No, you're not of a high enough standing for my sister. Man is basically just shutting every single person down that comes Daphne's way. When she kind of escapes to the lemonade table, a not diamond worthy suitor, Lord Nigel Burbrook, shows up. And he's like, hey girl, how you doing? I've had a crush on you forever, since I was given my lordship and you were like 9 or something. So there's an age discrepancy. It's kind of weird, like, even for this time period. Daphne's really not having it. She turns to escape. Who wants to talk to kind of the weird guy at the party? Daphne, rightfully so, as the diamond, kind of is like, and as she turns, who does she run into but Simon, the Duke of Hastings himself. Now, what's interesting here, Simon has been really trying to avoid all of the women at this party, right? He does not want anything to do with the mamas. The mamas of the Ton are here for one thing and one thing only, and that's to get their daughters married off, okay? They just want to get their girls off their plate. They want to have, that's how they secure their family's legacy, higher standing. And so when they see a duke, an eligible single duke, it basically is screaming like Bachelor new season coming, right? Like, they're all over him. Like, it is group date. Okay, that's the equivalent of what these balls are for Simon. So he's trying to avoid everyone, and he runs into Daphne. He thinks that Daphne is like pulling a ruse by not knowing who he is. And he's like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, that's a really clever one, that you're just like pretending you don't know who I am to like try to get me to talk to you and fall for you and blah, blah, blah. And Daphne's like, dude, chill your roll. Like, I'm just trying to go. Like, I'm just trying to get out of the way. And all of a sudden, Anthony beelines across the party, big smile on his face, which we've kind of yet to see at this point. And he's like, Simon, my old good pal from university. And we realize that he knows them. And so he sort of introduced Daphne. She's kind of pissed because Simon thinks himself so big that like people would pretend not to know him. And Simon's like a little embarrassed that he didn't know her, but like Daphne's kind of now being rude. So there's a little bit of some butting of heads here. Okay, some butting of heads. I also want to mention that at this ball, Benedict and Colin, Daphne's older brothers, are also at this party. Although Colin is older than Daphne, he's kind of like, for men, they're not really entering the marriage mart. Usually most of them are reluctant, and so they're not really entering until they're a little bit older. So Colin, just for purposes that will be important later on, is kind of not seen as like marriage potential right now at this point in time. And yes, in case you haven't guessed it yet, or in case you've never picked this up before, the Bridgerton children are named in alphabetical order according to their birth order. So we've got Anthony, we've got Benedict, we've got Colin, we've got Daphne. Those are our 4 oldest. Then we go Eloise, Francesca, Gregory, and Hyacinth. And there is 8. There is an even number of boys and girls. Violet really outdid herself. Can we give a round of applause to Miss Violet? Thank you, Miss Violet. I think that's quite genius, and I kind of want to steal that, but I don't plan to have 8 children, so I don't know that alphabetical order is technically as important as it is here. But at this ball, Marina is kind of pulling the suitors, right? So like, even though Daphne is diamond, like everyone's like, who's the new girl? Who's the hot new girl? Who's this hottie, right? And it's Marina. And one of the people that pays attention to her is our newly introduced Colin. Portia, once again, kind of pissed that no one's paying attention to her daughters. Daughters are wearing these horrible, ugly clothes because one of the things that's important about Bridgerton that's also introduced to us is Featheringtons are new money. The Bridgertons are old money, and there's a level of what is considered and deemed fashionable by each of these classes of the rich members of the Ton. And so the Bridgertons, you'll notice, are very much pastel blues, purples. The costumes of Bridgerton are very important. We'll get into that later as we go along in these recaps. But the Featheringtons are very citrusy, a lot of patterns. Like, it's too much. Penelope comments on it like all the time. She's like, I freaking hate wearing this stuff, right? Portia is talking to the other mamas, of course, about her frustrations. Like, why is no one paying attention to Prudence or Philippa or my Penelope? Like, literally none of them are getting any attention. They're also on the Marriage Mart. Who's this Marina girl? And she's like, you know, my daughters are pure. They're good. They're not like these other women that are ruined by scandal. You know, like that other girl we knew who like got caught in a garden, you know, had to marry that guy and it was like a huge scandal. So remember when I said like take mental screenshots throughout this? Like, big one. This is a big one. Okay. This is a big society rule. Okay. Women and men of the marrying age cannot be unchaperoned alone in private places, specifically gardens. Cut to the next morning. Daphne's really excited because, again, ball was going really well, right? Like, everybody's paying attention to her. She's the diamond of the season. There should be a lot of callers the next morning, and nobody's there to call upon. And she learns that this is because they've all been scared off by Anthony, because Anthony is being a little sourpuss. He's basically like, none of them are good enough. No, 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 no. And Lady Whistledown has noticed this. So, of course, she writes about it in her society papers, which drives everyone mad. Like, Violet's freaking out. Daphne's freaking out. She's like, how did I go from the diamond of the season to like nobody cares about me? It's a mess, right? It's a certifiable mess, babes. And we got to figure this out. Marina, on the other hand, is visited by a ton of guys, right? Because she doesn't have an annoying older brother being like, buzz off. They're all coming to visit her. So she's getting gifts, flowers, treats, cakes. Like it's popping at the Featherington house. Portia is not having it. And you know who else is not having it? The Queen. Queen Charlotte is very much not having the fact that her diamond is getting upstaged by some literal nobody from the farmland. And Lady Whistledown kind of goes against the Queen and is like, maybe she's actually the diamond. And that's just like, no. Have you seen Queen Charlotte's wigs? Do you really want to go against her? I don't. Daphne's kind of a little bit embarrassed publicly right now with the fact that she has no suitors. Nigel Berbrick decides to show up at the house and call on her. And so things aren't looking great for our girl Daph, right? Like things are looking a little bleak if that's her only option. Violet takes her to the opera. She's like, girl, let's have a girls' night. Like, you can't be sad. And she and Lady Danbury hatch this plan while they're at the opera. Lady Danbury, Violet, besties. They hatch a bit of a matchmaking scheme between Daphne and Simon. They're like, we both have these two young single people. What if they kissed? What if that kind of fails because at dinner, Daphne and Simon get in a little bit of a verbal tiff, as they've been known to do, and they kind of are just like at each other's throats. And so things aren't looking great for the scheming. Violet, though, is like, okay, if my scheme's not going to work, I need to approach Anthony and be like, Anthony, you can't be going after all of Daphne's suitors. Like, you can't be ruining her chances. Violet pits Anthony being annoying about Daphne's prospects with his old friendship of Simon, and is like, why don't you help me? Like, why don't we get them together? Anthony is like mad because he's like, no, that's my friend, mom. Like, I'm not hooking my friend with my sister. Like, that's weird. Also, he's my friend. Like, I know him. Like, you wouldn't want that. And Violet kind of uses this level of like, well, the man of the house, aka if your dad was here, and he has passed. Rip Edmund. We'll get to that later. If your dad was here, like, he would have found an old family friend to marry her off to. So why don't you just do that? And that's kind of a burn. It's kind of a sick burn. Violet kind of has a mic drop moment, and Anthony storms away. This shuts up Anthony, which is very hard to do because he's a dramatic man. So Anthony is now burdened with this concept of like what his father would do and his duty to his family, which like very... Anthony is very much burdened by what his father would do and his duty to his family. Imagine Zuko and his like my honor and like needing to get that back. That's how Anthony feels about like his family duty and like his responsibility as Viscount. He tells Sienna, opera girl, that he's been hooking up with. He's like, hey girl, can't see you anymore. I need to get serious. I need to be a man of a household so my mom doesn't like insult me anymore. It's kind of sad because you see how happy they are together, but obviously the rules of society kind of dictate they can't really be together more publicly, and therefore like Anthony kind of just resolves her to being a distraction as like, I gotta go focus on my real society life, and it's kind of just sad. Alas, we move on. Morale kind of is low as we go into this final ball of the episode. Like Daphne's like, it's my last chance to prove I'm the diamond. Anthony kind of has this resolve to like help Daphne get married. He tells Daphne, hey, Nigel Bergberg's not that bad. You should marry him, basically. Like, I can't prove that there's anything wrong with him, actually. I've looked into him, did a background check, because sure, a criminal background check's definitely all you need for the guy you're gonna marry off to your sister forever. And Daphne's, like, disgusted, which, girl, I understand. Like, please. This guy is giving heavy wormtail energy. She runs off, basically. And then we meet Cressida, who's kind of the town bully, basically the Regina George of Regency London. And she tries to get a dance with Colin, and she spills her drink on Penelope. This is going to be a really important scene, especially with basically... Resident Regina George, Cressida, she spilled her drink, oopsie, on Penelope. Colin, listen, if there's one thing about Colin, he does not like a bully. And Colin decides, you know what? I'm going to dance with Penelope instead. And the look on her face, she is delighted. And this is kind of a seed that will grow over the course of the next several seasons. But what you need to know here is Penelope Featherington seems to have a little bit of a crush on Colin Bridgerton, okay? It doesn't matter that that's her best friend's brother. He's cute. So she recognizes cute. They go and dance, and it's really sweet. It's very cute. And now Daphne's off in the garden, and she's just like trying to get some air, trying to breathe over the fact that her brother has just promised her to this like kind of crotchety man. She's trying to think through her options. And Nigel wanders into the garden that she's in and basically says like, it's basically a done deal. Like, you can go ahead and call me Nigel. Like, we're basically husband and wife. Like, we can be more informal with each other. And Daphne is like, she'd basically rather die than marry him. He starts to physically accost her and like hold on to her. And we see Simon is coming around the corner into the garden, and we're really hopeful that he's going to get there in time. But as soon as he turns the corner, Daphne socks Nigel in the face, like clean. He passes out cold on the ground, and Simon is kind of like, bruh, what just happened? Like, he's kind of impressed. And so they start to talk about what her options are and why she punched him. Simon knows that Nigel tried to accost Daphne. Simon also knows that Daphne doesn't want to marry Nigel. Daphne knows that Simon no longer wants to be seen as eligible by the rest of the ton and all the mamas and like young women that want to marry him. And they also both realize that a lot of their problems seem to keep going back to Lady Whistledown and what she writes about them. And so they devise a ruse to pretend that they are dating or courting, I should say. They're fake courting so that everyone will see Simon as not eligible. They will see Daphne as desirable. She'll hopefully get more suitors, and Lady Whistledown will leave them alone. And they walk out together from the gardens onto the dance floor and have this beautiful dance at this beautiful ball, and everyone is absolutely buzzing. Beautiful end to the episode, but we're not done. After stripping the sheets of Marina's bed, the Featherington's maid notices that her monthlies have yet to arrive, despite her being there for at least a month at this point. When we find out that no monthlies means that she's pregnant, but who is the father? That we will talk about in the next recap. Thank you guys for joining me on this recap of Bridgerton Season 1, Episode 1, Diamond of the First Water. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like it and subscribe for upcoming recap videos. I have this ambitious goal of recapping every episode of Bridgerton, including Queen Charlotte, and I want to make these digestible for you guys. But if you really start to enjoy them in a longer format, I may do the second half of the first season in one go. We're just gonna experiment. I'm in an effort to just get this done. We're just recording it. So I will see you guys very soon for a recap of Season 1, Episode 2, Shock and Delight. Thank you guys for watching so much, and I'll see y'all in my next video.